Hello and welcome to the big picture. One of the first initiatives of the present NDA government when it came to power in May 2014 was the announcement of the 100 Smart Cities program. After nearly 2 years of rather painstaking process, 20 cities across 12 states have been chosen to launch the program. How did this selection come to be made? What kind of a shape will these cities take following the implementation of the program? What kind of funds, apart from the nearly 50,000 crores promised during the next 5 years, are needed to make the promise a reality? These and many other questions have cropped up which needs an answer. We will discuss all this today with M. Ramachandran, former Secretary, Urban Development, Government of India; Jamal Ansari, former Director, School of Architecture and Planning, Delhi; Sudhir Krishna, former Secretary, Urban Development, Government of India; and Nitin, Sethi, Associate Editor, Business Standard. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Ramachandran, you think now that these 20 cities have been selected, you think that there is some kind of a clarity on what makes a smart city?
I think there is clarity because it has been a very competitive process. I keep reading about some other states saying that my city also should have been there in the first 20. But it's absolutely clear right from the beginning, it has been a competitive process. The city challenge was very well evolved. And I think it's very clear now cities have to be ahead if they have to be first good
to be chosen
cities and to be smart cities. So I think the first step has been very good. The question is, as you rightly underlined in your opening sentences, how will the special purpose vehicles function? How much of freedom of action they will have? How will they find the resources? And how will the interaction between the civil service and the elected system be in the respective local bodies?
In fact, we have been discussing this 2-3 times. We have discussed in the past, and you have been stressing this role of the local bodies and the elected representatives. That you think is the key?
That's right.
Is that the key?
That would make a big difference because we already heard from one state that there was some sort of reservation as far as the elected system is concerned. Where does the SPV come in and where do the elected representatives come in? I do hope states will clarify right at this stage as to what is the role of the SPV and where do the elected representatives come in. Probably this new system of an SPV has been evolved for this process so that generation of resources is possible, there is more accountability and results are delivered rather than projects lingering on for years and years. But in that, I think what is most crucial is for the states to lay down as to where do the election mayors and the corporators come in, because essentially they should be in the realm of policy making.
Right.
But when it comes to implementation, what is their role and will the SPV be fully accountable for what they are supposed to, 1, in terms of generate resources, 2, execute the projects, 3, deliver what is supposed to come out of the agenda of smart cities. So it's a question of, there are some doubts about whether this is a 5-year process or more than 5 years.
Exactly.
I would think as of now it's indicated for 5 years. And
but we already 1.5 years have gone, 2 years have gone now.
So the remaining period,
yes,
and as is our normal process now, I think the 5-year plan concept is not all that relevant now. So resources would become available over a 5-year period. That's what I understand. That's the indication. So it's a question of executing. If some cities really forge ahead and complete their projects even before the 5-year period, I think they would still be ahead if there is a further support possible.
Okay. Mr. Ansari, do you think that the selection was based on a very objective methodology and you think the selections have been done methodically?
I think so because in fact when initially 100 cities were selected, I was very happy and satisfied because it contained a very large range of cities in terms of population size and the spread in terms of the country. Now that out of the 100 or 97, 98, we have come to the stage of 20 cities. I have been involved in the process. So internally I know that how rigorous the process was. All those cities which were competing, they had to be on their toes for the last 2 months in order to complete their vision plan and make the submission. And there were such detailed criteria which were set, how the marking will be done. About 41 questions which were there in the template, which each and every city had to reply. And for each there were marks allotted. And they are 1 to 7 scale. Not acceptable, very poor, poor, good, very good, excellent. So
This was based on the presentation made by each of the
Yeah, each
cities.
of these cities there was a rigorous
So that
timeline.
when we say each of the cities, the municipal corporations were involved. Was it
Municipal corporation were the agencies from where the projects emanated, who were the main actors in this. But each municipality had hired consultants, and it was not one consultant; it was a consortium of consultants, 2 or 3, and then there were on top of that there were handshaking organizations in order to help further. So I think the 20 which have come out, I am quite happy and satisfied that these are the cities which have been selected. I think they deserved it.
Okay, Mr. Sudhir Krishna, why 20? You know, initially we were all made to believe this, that 100 will be selected, and you know the programs will start in 100 cities. 500 crores will be given by the center. Additional 500 crores will be given by the states to each city. What happened, and why only 20 now?
Yes, I mean, the 20 number is, we have 4,041 notified municipalities in the country.
Okay.
And every citizen has got a right to look for better quality of life. And cities are supposed to be offering better quality of life, better economic opportunities, better employment opportunities for the citizen. So whether one is living in a small city or big city, he has the same claim on the public resources and public policies. And therefore, from that perspective, I mean, too much focus on a limited number of cities, that too large cities, would be, you know, it's a thing which we have to, I mean, I would recommend for a thorough review that every city, you know, earlier programs like the UID SSMT were open to each and every town, small or big. So having said that, I would say that perhaps these 20 cities can be taken as the guiding cities, so to say. They can become a role model for rest of the cities, but they cannot become role model just like that. A framework has to be available to adopt the role model, you know. And I would say that, you know, if we say the spread, these 20 cities are like the central belt, the northern belt is practically, you know, empty. Except for
There's no UP, there is no,
yes,
there is no
Bihar, no Jharkhand, no West Bengal, and no Haryana.
Right.
Okay, Punjab one, Ludhiana,
yes.
New Delhi is already good. No Himachal Pradesh,
Yes.
no Jammu Kashmir, and so on. I mean, even elsewhere. And they, on the other hand, you have like western states, 2 each out of 20. Rajasthan or Gujarat or Maharashtra.
Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Gujarat.
Even Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh. So, I mean, this is something which we have to ponder
Madhya
over.
Pradesh has 3.
Yes, and the cities which were already progressive, they are okay. I mean, it's a race where healthier will win, all right. But we have to worry about the backward also. So, one good thing has happened, which has a recent development, that the Ministry of Urban Development have placed the action plan of the 20 cities on the website.
Okay.
The rest of the cities can at least follow that. So it's a good development, I would say.
So that in the next year, when 40 more are supposed to be selected, they can take hints from this.
And not only that, remaining cities, whether they are in Amrut cities, for example. Amrut is a wonderful program, covering 500 class 1 cities, having population of 1 lakh and more.
Right.
That accounts for almost 70% of country's urban population. It's a wonderful program. So nothing prevents. In fact, I would recommend that, and I hope that the Amrut cities and even other smaller cities take a look at the action plan of these 20 cities and adopt the same into their development planning. No?
Okay. Nitin, you know, is there a clarity now, perfect clarity within the government? Because, you know, we have been discussing this since the last 1 year. We have had 2-3 programs. There was a lack of clarity, or there was some kind of a confusion in the past. Now, Mr. Ramachandran also feels that there is a clarity. You think that the government is now completely clear about what it wants to do as far as these 20 cities are concerned? And why do you think only 20 cities were selected in the first phase?
I think on some things there's clarity. One, the government decided it will award scholarships to the most richest of cities, in some sense, or the richest of students. Therefore, you have NDMC in this list, which I find obnoxious, if not silly, considering we already spend more than ₹1 lakh per citizen living in NDMC. We're going to spend all the more trying to spruce it up yet further. And this is the creamiest of creams of Indian citizens living in that area. I don't know how it got selected, but I can tell you why it got selected. The selection criteria itself favors those, as I was saying, already the cities that are already doing well. Now, I don't know in urban planning where that idea comes from. You're supposed to help cities which are not up to the mark, hold the potential, are going to grow, and you're going to provide them aid and support. Now, on that thing, I think the government's got clear. They want a couple of projects that come out well. So they've got NDMC, in which you add a little bit more and it'll come out looking shining. Few other cities, exactly why we don't have eastern regions covered at all at the moment. Two, I think there's absolute lack of clarity even today of where the financing is coming from, or the government doesn't want to talk of it candidly. And three, the nature of SPV, as everyone on the panel has suggested. Now, the money is important. Everyone says there's a PPP, we'll find other sources. The fact is the only way the money is going to come is if you're going to open up the land to real estate. Now, if it can't be said openly, well, there's something happening there. The fact is, we are still looking at only smart colonies being built in these cities, with one pan-city program at best being supported by the government. The rest of the city can find out its money and do whatever it wants. But that's the only criteria it has, which in fact basically means we are going to look at smart gated colonies in these select cities come up, if they do, in 3 to 5 years or more. That's all we're looking at the moment. Now, if it can't be said candidly, let's wait for 3 years and we'll know. We won't have a smart city anywhere. We'll have a smart colony here and there. And if NDMC is going to be declared a smart colony, well, it can be done today, I think.
Okay, Mr. Ramachandran, actually that is a concern, We are told, in fact, Bhubaneswar and Jaipur's example are being given, whereas Jaipur will be only, it will be confining itself, this whole smart city concept will be confined to the walled city area of Jaipur, and in Bhubaneswar also some 900 acres of, of the capital city. So this is actually not a full city being developed, part of the city is being developed. As Nitin is talking about, would we have this kind of gated communities coming up?
I think never was the idea there that the entire city will become smart overnight or in a 5-year period. The guidelines very clearly stated.
Right from the beginning was
Right from the beginning, it was very clear to the states and cities that Pan City would be one initiative. But other than that, each city has to make a choice as to whether they want to go for retrofitting or redevelopment or greenfield for a selected area, because for none of these cities can we find the type of resources and the manpower and the ability to make it smart in a 3 or 5 year period, because it's a time-taking process and it's being experimented with for the first time in a huge country like ours, where city populations are also very high. So it happens.
But what about the criticism of Nitin that a place like NDMC? Why NDMC? No. Why not choose the worst affected cities rather than the best cities?
Yes. I don't think we are sitting here in policy judgment in that way. Government decided about a certain policy. That's one way of looking at things. There could be different ways of looking at things. But I think government would have tried to balance between regional imbalances or area-wise issues and problems. What they have done is for each city, for each state, depending upon the urban population, they have earmarked certain number of cities which that state will definitely have. If not in the 20, they are going to be there in the 80. So as a union territory, Delhi also had to get one place. Now, it was the choice made by Delhi from within. It's not a choice imposed by the government of India on Delhi that this is the place you should develop. And consultation with the citizen was important. So if the Delhi government opted for a consultation process and citizens preferred this area, and according to the criteria laid down, that area proposed by the Delhi government to the central government met certain criteria requirements, NDMC is bound to be there. So I don't think we are in judgment over that. Now it's a question of nothing prevents states from taking up the remaining areas also to make it smart. Like I heard
Mr. Ramachandran, that's fine, but let us come to the funding aspect of it. That is where all the doubts lie.
Yeah. So that's where the innovativeness or the challenge is there. Like right. In this present list of 20, against the 10,000 crore which center will provide, another 10,000 crore the state will provide, 30,000 crore these cities have projected will be raised from outside these two sources.
This 10,000 crores over a period of 5 years.
For a period of 5 years.
Right.
That's what the center will give. Another 10 is expected to come from the state. The remaining 30, the total works out 50,000 crores for these 20 cities. The remaining 30 is supposed to be generated through other sources such as convergence with other programs, public-private partnership, loans, and if they can raise resources from outside. They all have listed what is possible. Now, it's unfortunate in our country, everything that is planned and projected does not really happen fully. But again, we have to wait and see which states and which cities succeed in meeting this target of raising the extra resources. That's where I mentioned in the beginning, the functioning of the SPV would make a big difference. Do they have the freedom to go out and generate the type of resources required? So we have a projection now. So if you look at this figure and if you scale it to the 100 cities, 250,000 crores will be the total amount which will be planned for making these cities smart over a whatever period and when all the 100 cities are listed. But that's the target we have. We learn from our previous implementation of programs as to how best to improve, how best to build up further. So it is a point of concern, how will we find the resources? With the type of investment atmosphere we have, will that resources be forthcoming from other sectors other than government? For that, what is it that the city will put forth that this is what I am planning to do? And how do the citizens come in this process that, yes, this is for my city, so I will also contribute to this process?
Okay, Mr. Ansari, has that been taken care of in this whole, during the selection process itself? This whole funding aspect, was it a major consideration where the cities which have been selected have been able to give some kind of a concrete,
yes, there was
suggestion of how they will bring
there
about
was quite a bit of component in the selection process. But before I come to that, I would like to point out one thing, that today these 20 cities have been selected, only vision plan has been prepared. Now, before the projects become implemented, now all these vision plans have to be detailed out in terms of specific projects. And then there will be further detailed out in terms of what we know detailed project report. And then the bids will be asked for. And then the bids will be selected, and ultimately then the projection, then the implementation will start. So I think it will take another 1.5 to 2 years before really we start putting things on ground.
Something on the ground.
Something on the ground.
Okay.
So the finance is not that big an issue today. Now, each of the 20 cities, government has to pay about 2 crores of rupees for detailing out the plans. To make them implementable. So that is the commitment right now. You see, but when the selection criteria was there were detailed questions. The solutions were sought from the competitors, that how do you propose to fund?
Right.
You see, for example, one of the projects, which is an area redevelopment, I am not naming the city, area redevelopment project. Now, this is an area very smartly chosen in the sense that it is the heart of the city, a very prime land, real estate value land, but occupied by a very low kind of a use.
Low income people.
Low income 2-story government buildings which are dilapidated, which needs to be redeveloped anyway. So once that redevelopment proposal with the incentivized FAR starts coming in, the developers who would come in and start creating real estate, perhaps they would bring their own finances in to fund the projects.
Right.
Of course, part of it will have to be given. Then again, there is a lot of questions being asked from each of the competing municipalities, that how do you propose to reform process to increase your revenues by smart ways of collecting funds, seeing that whatever demand is raised, you get it. Perhaps user charges modifications, so many things, you see. So that idea is already there, and those who have given smart answers to this issue, that how far the plans will be implemented, from where the resources will come, and what the municipality will do in order to enhance their resources, that has become a very big scoring point.
Mr. Krishna?
In fact, I have to say one thing on the concept of this SPV, and second on the financing in real terms. The municipal governance in many ways in all over the world, in every country, reflects the governance model that the country adopts, or it is in the body system of the country. Municipal governance, a city government reflects. Now, if we don't trust our municipality and we think that, so far we had SPV only for projects like water supply, there could be an SPV, or riverfront development, an SPV. But for wholesale development of assuming that the smart city part is, though part of the city is a city, let us say a sub-city, the first ever effort to hand over the entire governance responsibility by the
To an SPV.
Yes, it is the first ever.
But
Are
you know,
we-
as Mr.
are we-
Ramachandran rightly points out, then what is the role of the...
I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
So, are we willing to try it out at the state and national level? Are we willing to have a state development corporation and hand over the entire responsibility of governance of the state to an SPV? Or government of India? We are not, because we are proud of democracy.
Yes.
So, this is a very fundamental question, and it is on conceptual point. In real terms, governance is a very intricate issue. It is not merely financing. Financing is linked with general management,
Right.
general affairs, interdepartmental, intersectoral. There are issues and issues. So it is not possible just for an SPV, a corporate body, to take over the entire municipal function. In fact, the guidelines say that state government will delegate a lot of powers to the SPV. Municipalities' power will be given to the SPV, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of anxiety I have about this concept of
And
SPV.
what about regulatory frameworks? Have they been established?
And then, they are supposed to be getting power of regulatory and everything. I mean, it is a unique thing. It has never happened in the world anywhere. Our country, it is against the whole democratic framework of our country, I would think so. But having said that, now that we have brought it with good intention, it is worthwhile finding a place for it. But I am quite anxious, and I must say that I am.
Mr. Ramachandran, do you share the same kind of anxiety which Sudhir Krishna has? He's talking about where there could be a possible kind of a conflict between the democratic setup and this proposal.
Yeah, that's one of the concerns I think I tried to underline, in the sense that it's well said, but there have to be a working system so that the elected component feels happy that there is work happening.
Happy and also involved.
Involved to the extent required,
Right.
and the SPV delivers. Here the difference would be the SPV will have to be accountable. In the earlier system, the council itself, the corporation itself was implementing.
Right.
So they were directly accountable or responsible. But here there is a body which is going to be accountable, and that should make a difference. And I think this is a lesson learned over implementation of different types of programs in the country, in the cities, because the corporations and the local bodies themselves do not have the type of capacity. I mean, if you compare it to a state government or any other system, they do not have that type of capacity over a period of time. We have not succeeded in strengthening their professional capacities.
Right.
So in the absence of that, since that cannot happen overnight, in the absence of that, I think this is another way of experimenting, that you have an SPV city specific which will undertake these tasks, and it is not totally aloof from the elected body. Either the commissioner or some such functionary is going to be there, either heading it or undertaking responsibilities. And I'm sure there will be some sort of methodology worked out by state governments as to how the elected system will have a say as far as what is to be done by the SPV is concerned. I think the project selection itself would be within the domain of the elected body. These are projects which would be selected by the council.
Mr. Ansari, you think the elected bodies were involved in this process at this stage?
Not only the elected bodies, but also the people were very much involved in the framing of the proposals. There were sites on which the people could give their proposals, and these were very much.
People means you're talking of the citizens.
Citizen itself. I mean,
No, but the elected representatives, because ultimately that is where the problems can start and begin.
I am not very sure, but I think when there is such a broad framework of participative process, there should have been. I mean, I can't say with authenticity, but then the fact is that the whole idea of SPV, of course, yes, it is something which we have to ponder around. The Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, the whole issue of SPV is very much live, and the experiment which is being conducted there, if it is a successful exercise, I think it can be repeated in all these cases. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Nitin, have all these things been taken care of? Where does this whole regulatory framework business comes into play? Has the government applied its mind to it? When these 20 cities, now we are told that it will take at least 1.5 years, 2 years for it to really take off. But meanwhile, you think all these things will be put in place?
Well, I think our panel is being extremely polite in even just saying that they're anxious about it. If you look at the fears that are there, they're not only palpable, they actually are large schisms in the debate now. You're saying you'll have an officer from the central government appointed as the executive officer in the SPV who can only be removed or with the permission of the Urban Development Ministry, which will then overrule all the elected officers, all the elected people from a city. It's unbelievable. We've never imagined a system where an IAS officer sent from Delhi to a city goes and manages the show, and everyone else is kind of just listening to what they want to do, and there are a bunch of consultants sitting on the side working it out. Now, if you look at the documentation that's in public domain so far, there is absolute lack of clarity how these things mesh together. If you look at the proposals that are on the table, and I've seen others which are not amongst these 20, the kind of consultations that have been done is we consulted people through Facebook, we consulted people through Twitter, we asked them to send us emails. Is this how you consult a city of rich and poor and not just NDMC? That's the level of consultations we've had in some sense, because it's been driven by consultants so far. And really at the moment, it's a consultant driven process. We have not seen engagement of any democratic institution in these things.
Well, are you trying to say that the municipalities, the corporations have not been involved?
Well, if you look at a lot of those presentations, and I've seen only the presentations, I've not engaged with the city mayors, etc. If you look at those presentations, half of them seem like consultant driven, saying, I got 70,000 Facebook likes for my project. Really? Is that how we decide how cities are going to develop?
Mr. Ansari?
Actually, the municipalities are the owners of these plans. They are the initiators.
Absolutely.
They were very much involved. Of course, that involvement maybe, you might be right in saying that there were quite a big say of the bureaucrats in these municipalities, the commissioners and the deputy commissioners, and then at the state level, the chief secretary. They were, I mean, the example that I know of, they were quite substantially dictating what the consultants have to do as far as the detailing of the projects is concerned. But as long as you come out with a good result, I would not be very much bothered about
Okay,
that.
Mr. Krishna?
Well, I think
No, these are all concerns. You accept the fact that these are all serious concerns?
it is actually the concerns are more than that also. It is not merely because of a shortage of time. We can, for instance, I mean, earlier occasion I have mentioned also, the framework for SPV is such that there will be a Government of India's nominee in each SPV. And today we have 100 SPVs, and tomorrow we will have 1,000. Now, ultimately Government of India may end up nominating, I mean, section officers or maybe assistants, I mean, because you don't have so many officers, and they are not meant to. See, Government of India
Answering to a joint secretary in Delhi someday.
No, but the Government of India's system is not meant to work like this. It is, there are a lot of work. Every ministry, there is hardly anybody who has got free time, except there may be shirkers by nature, it's a different matter. But those who are having reasonable amount of seriousness about work, right from the clerk up to the senior most people, they are very busy people. Occasionally only they are able to. Now a Government of India representative being in a city SPV is a most unique situation, and so on and so forth. So the thing is that governance has to be, city governance must be driven by the city, by the not by citizen in there. That's a very, I mean, I would say that it is like spreading it too thin, by the city council. World over, yes, world over, that is the framework.
Right.
I mean, that framework has to be strengthened, it has been nurtured.
Okay. Mr. Ramachandran, very quickly, last words. So, when amidst all these concerns, what is it that you see, the light which you see, which can make this actually a good program a success?
It's a different type of beginning, and it's aimed at the higher end of the scheme of things, where technology comes in, facilitation happens, and it's available to all the citizens of the city. We have to try to make it work. And I think there are lessons learned from implementation of the earlier urban mission for 10 years, 12 years or so. So there are some changes made. Hopefully these changes should work. I don't think there is any final or most preferred mechanism of implementing these. One can always pass on the funds and tell the cities, you do what you want.
Okay.
But that's probably not going to happen or not going to work as far as city improvements are concerned.
Okay.
So I think we should try to make this work despite the shortcomings or shortfalls.
Okay, I think on that note, we'll have to end. But the fact is that this is a mega scheme which is also one of the dream projects of this government. Hopefully, it will be worked out. With all the panelists have several concerns. Hopefully, all those concerns will be taken note of and ensured that all those will be will not become a serious problem. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in the big picture same time on Monday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.